Is this Olympus?
Gosh, it's amazing!
Oh,
Whoa, that's down there!
nope.
"13 years ago, I finished Kingdom Hearts 2, put down my controller, and said, wow, I can't wait for Kingdom Hearts 3. It's been a long wait, but Kingdom Hearts 3 is finally here. Sure, we've had a plethora of spin-offs and remasters, but they felt like underportioned appetizers compared to the main course that fans have been looking forward to. Of course, in those 13 years since I defeated Organization 8, things have changed in the world of gaming as well as within my own perspective. After years of being spoiled by massive open worlds, deep characters, and coherent storylines, can the Kingdom Hearts formula stand the test of time? Let's start with the story. Unless you're one of the rabid superfans who has dissected each and every title in the series in order to get a hold of what's happening by the time Kingdom Hearts 3 starts, it's highly likely that just about everything regarding the main plot will sound like gibberish to you. That's because it mostly is. Within the first few hours, the game runs itself in circles trying to explain what's going on. But no matter how bare bones they lay it out and visualize it, it's like an unholy combination between the convoluted plot of Metal Gear Solid and an explanation of off-screen Star Wars lore. If you listen really hard, you might get a glimpse of what exactly is happening, before an edgy teenager in a cloak will beat you over the head with a pseudo-philosophical nonsense and swear it's integral to the plot. But after a little while, the game seems to be in on the joke. Characters sometimes straight up admit that they're confused too, or get sleepy during long-winded expositional monologues, before the character giving said monologue reveals something that makes the preceding information even more impossible to comprehend. Your best bet is to jump in without taking the plot too seriously, laughing at and with it along the way. That being said, Kingdom Hearts 3 offers the closest thing to comprehensible human speech in series history, with dialogue reaching genuinely effective and charming heights, but almost exclusively for the game's main cast during more lighthearted moments. Donald genuinely made me laugh out loud a few times, and there were a couple of moments when I genuinely sympathized with Sora, but once it gets into the thick plot business, get ready for minutes on end of indiscernible nonsense. Most of the Disney characters' dialogue is word for word ripped from their respective films, with a couple notable exceptions that have original storylines, similar to past Kingdom Hearts games. Some of the included characters' original voice actors actually reprise their role, and the ones that don't are immediately noticeable, but most of them are passable. The game's original characters are where the dialogue and voice acting really falls apart, but on the bright side, the animation in this game is absolutely phenomenal. Disney characters move exactly the way you would expect them to, partly in thanks to Pixar's cooperation on the project and the company's mutual penchants for perfectionism. In some of the worlds that have been translated from 2D to 3D, characters can look a bit like plastic toys even when they're not supposed to, but aesthetically it works and still sells that world's connection to the film it's based on. Each world has its own cute little details too, like figurines of Herc and Phil in Olympus, or Flynn Rider's wanted posters in the Kingdom of Corona from Tangled. The developer even goes the extra mile to recreate some fun scenes from the referenced films, with Sora and the gang there to witness it firsthand, like Rapunzel's emotional roller coaster following her emancipation from the tower she lived in her whole life, which isn't exactly new for Kingdom Hearts, but the delivery is much more effective and endearing thanks to the high quality of the animations. There's one moment in particular around the 13-hour mark that will really drive this point home for a lot of players. Combat animations are as smooth and stylish as ever thanks to a 60 FPS frame rate, though it can buckle under the pressure of rendering some of the more crowded and complex scenes. There's also a stable frame rate mode in the game's configurations, but I personally found that the frame rate drops don't happen enough to justify switching over. Also, not that it needs reaffirming, but the game's soundtrack is as phenomenal as ever. Each world has its own beautiful orchestral theme, some of them sampling familiar bits and pieces from the original film's themes that blend seamlessly into epic battle as you slide into combat. The new Utada Hikaru tracks are pretty solid too, though Face My Fears is definitely the weaker of the two by a long shot. I applaud the decision to try something new, but Don't Think Twice is definitely more akin to Simple and Clean and Sanctuary, and probably would have better served the game's introduction song tonally, even though it doesn't pack the instrumental punch its predecessors do. Speaking of introductions, the game wastes no time pulling at your most nostalgia-infused heartstrings. Early flashbacks to previous titles show how far the series has come graphically before finally submerging you in modern era high definition visuals, and the opening tutorial will look very familiar to anyone who has played the past entries in the series. Though it would have been nice if the tutorial covered a bit more right off the bat as opposed to interrupting gameplay with a screen full of text explaining something that I could easily figure out myself for the rest of the entire game. There's a wider range of attacks that are mostly attached to 2 buttons. There are the traditional attack and magic assigned to the command menu, and then everything else attached to another button, which is both a blessing and a curse. Keyblade transmogrifications, team up attacks, attraction attacks, and interact are all mapped to the same damn button, and on more than one occasion, you'll press it meaning to do one thing and end up doing something completely different. This is a long-running issue I was hoping would be fixed with this installment, but I often find myself turning into a lightning-striking god on a chariot pulled by Pegasus from Hercules when all I wanted to do was open a chest. These simplistic controls can be useful during combat though, as it helps keep the player in flow state by lining up an endless string of useful attacks that help with crowd control and boss fights, and keeps the game true to its identity by igniting an incomprehensible amount of action on screen at any given time. There's also a new shot lock system that helps with both travel and attacks, being used to reach tall heights one moment and build up a multi-strike assault the next. Enemy design tends to lean on the series' now monolithic catalog of baddies, but the noticeably new ones look great, especially those that are world specific. Some can equip armor that breaks and chips away as Sora rains blows upon them. Additionally, Donald and Goofy don't feel quite as useless this time around, though there's still a bit of room for improvement, especially after being spoiled by useful, well-programmed sidekicks from other recent games. The Gummi Ship is back and better than ever in a semi-open galaxy as opposed to the space tunnels of the former titles. It takes a bit of getting used to at first, as space battles are often a separate minigame-esque entity this time around, and the proximity for getting into one is unclear, but it's ultimately a step in the right direction. While flying around, you can take pictures of constellations to unlock new ship blueprints using Sora's Gummi Phone. The Gummi Phone is basically a contextual excuse for some new mechanics, like taking pictures and on-the-fly minigames, but mostly acts as a menu within a menu, storing your glossary, story synopsis, and other informational resources. Taking pictures is easily the most important of these new mechanics due to the fact that you need to take pictures of the 100 hidden Mickeys strewn about the game to unlock the secret movie being patched in on day 1. There's also a plethora of minigames to play through, from the Gummi Phone's Game & Watch-esque platformer, to a pudding stacking game in each world's safe zone, to the return of the 100-acre wood. Summons also make their return, bringing in a cast of Disney characters whose worlds couldn't make it for one reason or the other. Each Keyblade comes with its own set of special attacks and transmogrifications to tear enemies apart with style and can be upgraded through synthesis in the Moogle shop. You can also make mills with Remy from Ratatouille, which grant temporary stat buffs similar to how the mills in Final Fantasy XV work. Spells and items can still be mapped to a shortcut, though the item management in particular is still pretty annoying as you can only equip a select few at a time. Though when you fall in battle, there's now additional options to prepare and retry or continue, which is separate from the standard retry. All in all, younger me and modern me are pretty happy with Kingdom Hearts 3. It's a JRPG cover band of Disney's greatest hits from the past 30 years and doubles down on everything that gives the series its identity, from over-the-top combat to overly complex plotlines that make little to no sense. Sora and the gang are ridiculously optimistic and lovable as ever, and the organization matches them with mid-2000s suburban teenage angst. There's a sense of finality to it. From the very start, it feels like the end of something epic, and carries that feeling throughout the entire game. Superfans are going to be thrilled at every turn, and newcomers will appreciate the bizarre, unmatched genre blend of Disney and anime culture. Kingdom Hearts 3 is still some of the most genuine and wholesome fun I've had in a while, and even though to some degree it is more of the same that we've seen from past titles with more polish, finesse, and technological magic, but in a way, that's what makes it feel like home. But what do you guys think? Are you looking forward to Kingdom Hearts 3? Are you going to be hopping in as a new player, or are you a series veteran? Let us know in the comments below, and as always, stay tuned to COGconnected for all your video game needs.